So what do you say to clients when they're worried about the America losing its values and passing on? What do you talk about?
Well, what I'm basically, trying to encourage families to do is let's secure your family first. I believe you got to start family by family, Kevin, and that's the thing that we talk about. So we talk about how do you receive the heritage that you're due? How do you create family values? How you have a very specific vision for your family? How you encourage and teach the relationships that have formed you and formed me that are real important. And then we go in, and the fifth thing we talk about is how do you hand off the stuff efficiently?
Yeah. Well, in chapter 5, you quote Albert Einstein. I love the quote. It says, "Try not to become a man of success, rather become a man of value." What do you see as the difference between success and value?
I think success is what we're all driving for, but values is what actually sets the direction or the compass of where we're heading. So anytime, I teach my children this, is anytime you're going to make a mistake, in which we're all going to make mistakes and have bad choices in life, you've got to go back to your core values. Did you, somewhere along the way, did you not utilize that core value effectively, or have you not made that core value important? Because the core values is the center of who we are, which ultimately becomes the result of what we choose.
Well, and we've had a long conversation about relationship. And I think one of the problems, the disconnects that we have between one generation and the next, is there really isn't that relationship there. Can you tell me just a little bit about why we as people are made for relationship?
Well, I think that God created us for relationship. One, He created us for a relationship with Him, but He also puts people in our life for us to have influence into and to receive influence from. You and I have built a relationship through the last 3 or 4 years, which has been, very important to me, and I think very important to you. Relationship is so important. Now, here's the catch. We're not teaching the generations how to have healthy relationships. And that's one thing I try to talk about. I've got 2 girls and you've got 2 girls, and how do we coach them and encourage them? So when my girls come home, I got 2 teenagers, and they're talking about, well, Sally said X today, or Mary said Y. I always stop them and say, okay, what could we have done different in that relationship, either in your response or your words, or if she said hurtful words, how do we manage that? I just think that's important to point out good, healthy relationships for the next generation.
This could be extra hard because the kids are looking at screen times of 6, 8 hours a day, staring at their phone, not actually interacting with people. So that's a real challenge and something we've got to focus on.
Yeah, and I believe what parents are going to have to do is set boundaries on the technology, and that's a whole separate conversation.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
Well, there are lots of financial advisors who can help people be tax efficient in passing money. I mean, it's just a bunch of rules and reading the rules and following the rules, and maybe there's some creative investments that advisor, but what I think sets you apart, and I really do, is that you focus on legacy. I don't see a lot of advisors out there who really do focus on legacy. Funny, but that seems to be what the clients most want. Is that what you're finding?
I am finding that I believe that most advisors don't actually focus on that. I just, being in the business so long, I kept going to why is an individual asking a question, and what is it that's really motivating them and driving them? I think it's built within all of us that we want to make a difference for future generations. We just don't know how to do it.
Oh, and I think that's a problem for a long time. Picked up an article recently that shows the heirs of John D. Rockefeller, the guy that founded Standard Oil, that's morphed into ExxonMobil today and lots of other oil companies. The heirs of the founder are taking the wealth they inherited, and they've partnered, maybe unwittingly, with Vladimir Putin and the anti-fracking movement, and they're supporting the Green New Deal and all this anti-capitalist, anti-energy movement in the United States. Don't you think John D. would be rolling over in his grave to know that?
He would, because everything he built was based upon the values that he chose, and they're choosing different values today.